Okay, good morning students. Today we'll be concentrating on another topic, that is the male reproductive system. Very simple topic. Most of the time we will be concentrating this topic only for your 1 marks and 2 marks related questions. Okay, in this chapter in human reproduction, very important questions for a public exam is gametogenesis. In that, spermatogenesis, oogenesis, structure of ovum, structure of sperm, and then menstrual cycle. So these are all very important. And the other one is, after studying this, go through all the fertilization process and implantation, maintenance of pregnancy, and the last part I will just take it during your revision time, that is parturition and lactation. Okay. So today we will be concentrating 1 mark based and 2 mark based in male reproductive system. In male reproductive system, what are the things that we are going to concentrate is, we are going to concentrate the structure as well as the location of the testis. So this is the first one, which is we are going to concentrate on this topic. Second one, we are going to study about the importance of the functions of the seminiferous tubules. And the third one, we will talk about certain cells which is located inside the seminiferous tubules. And the fourth one is the ducts or the tubes that is involving in male reproductive system. And finally, we will be discussing about the glands which is in the male reproductive system. So these are all the topics that we are going to cover in this male reproductive system. Now the first one is the structure and the location of testes. As you know, testes are the primary sex organ in male. In male it is a primary sex organ, and all the secondary sexual characters are being developed from this primary sex organ. Okay, right. So now, where the testes are located? The testes are located inside the sac-like structure called scrotum. Important 2 mark question. We will study afterwards. Listen. Now, the testes are located inside the scrotum sac. It is the sac. It is made up of skin, and this scrotum sac is always presented outside the abdominal cavity, not inside. It is not present inside your body. It is present outside the body. Okay. Why testes are located outside the body is the sperm cell production. It is done inside the testes. That's what we studied. Now, viable sperm cells cannot be produced in your normal body temperature. Clear? Normal body temperature, sperm cell cannot be produced. So, the testes are located outside the body, hanging outside the body, present inside a sac-like structure called scrotum sac. This is the testis which is covered by a sac-like structure. In that, testes are located. So, the temperature is varying from the body temperature, that is 2 to 3 degrees Celsius lower than the body temperature. If you compare with the testis temperature and body temperature, 2 to 3 degrees Celsius lower than the body temperature. In that temperature only, testis can produce viable sperm cells, and that is the reason the testes are located outside in the abdominal cavity in the scrotum sac. Understand? Now, this scrotum sac, since it is involving or maintaining the temperature, the scrotum sac is called thermoregulators. 2 mark question. Afterwards you can read this. Thermoregulator. Why scrotum sac is called thermoregulator? It is because it is maintaining the regulator temperature varies from the body temperature 2 to 3 degrees Celsius lowest, so that the viable sperm cell can be produced. Understand now? This testis will be surrounded by a membrane called outside called tunica albugina. Is an important structure which is present outside the testis. Testis will be surrounded by a membrane. Now, inner to this testis, you will find this lobe-like structures. So, around 200 to 250 lobes will be there inside. So, in every testis, inside you will find this 200 to 250 lobe-like structures will be present. Okay. Now, inside this testis, inside this testis, you will find this lobe that is 200 to 250 in each lobes or lobules. Now, 2 to 4 highly coiled tubes will be present. So, this is not one tube, 2 or 4 together, it is highly coiled and it is present inside. So, these highly coiled tubes are called seminiferal tubules. So, how many seminiferal tubules are highly coiled? 2 to 4. If you take female reproductive system, just turn the page, you find the length of the ovary. Female, starting the length of the ovary, some 2-3 lines, you will find the size or the length of the ovaries 2 to 4 centimeter long. Okay, so the how many seminiferal tubules are there? 2 to 4 highly coiled. What is the length of the ovary? 2 to 4 centimeter long. Understand, right? Come back. Now here, since what we studied is, we are studying about the primary sex organ in male, that is the testis. The testes are not located inside the body, it is present outside the body in the abdominal cavity. It is located inside the sac-like structure called scrotum sac. The scrotum sac is temperature sensitive, that means it will regulate the temperature, and this scrotum sac will have the temperature 2 to 3 degrees Celsius lower than the body temperature, and that is the reason it is called thermoregulators. Now, this scrotum testis will be surrounded by a membrane called tunica albuginum. Okay, and it is having 200 to 250 lobes-like structures will be there in both the testes, as well as inside each lobe you will find 2 to 4 highly coiled structures or tubes will be there called seminiferal tubules. Seminiferal tubules is highly involved in sperm production. So, small sperm production, otherwise called as spermatogenesis. So, the spermatogenesis will always take place inside the seminiferal tubules. That is what we study, in spermatogenesis. We have drawn this kind of a structure. That is the seminiferal tubule. You will have the germinal epithelium, and everything is happening, maturing, everything happens. And when it comes to the central lumen or central cavity, it becomes mature spermatozoa. Clear? Right. So that is what in this you will find the seminiferal tubules are inside 2 to 4 highly coiled structure which is involving in spermatogenesis, that is called formation of sperm cell. 80% of this seminiferal tubules involved in the spermatogenesis process. Clear? Right. So we studied the structure as well as the location of testis. We also studied about the seminiferal tubules. Now, an important one, most of the time some 2 marks and 1 mark will be asked, the cells which is involving in the testis. Now, when you talk about the testis will, inside the testis, here if you talk about the seminiferal tubules, inside the seminiferal tubule, you will have a cell here. This cell is called Sertolic cells. We already studied this one. The Sertolic cells will provide nutrition till the sperm is getting maturation. Clear? Right. So, the Sertolic cell is also called as, one more question, nurse cell or nursing cell. Okay? Right. So, now this Sertolic cells, there is a one cell which is presented inside the seminiferal tubules. Clear? Right. Now, we will talk about the Sertolic cell now. The role of it, as you know, it is providing nutrition, nourishment to the developing sperm cells. That is number one. Second one, it is producing an hormone. It is an endocrine gland sometimes. So, it produces an hormone called inhibin hormone or inhibin. So, inhibin means it is involving in stopping something else. Okay, as we already studied, in pituitary we have got 2 hormones, FSH and LH hormone. Okay, the LH hormone will involve in producing the hormone called testosterone hormone. Okay, that is the role of LH hormone. LH hormone will often will involve in producing the testosterone. Only if the testosterone is there, the spermatogenesis will take place. Okay. That means it will produce the sperm cells only in the presence of an hormone called testosterone. If there is no hormone, the sperm cell cannot be produced. That is what after puberty, 10 to 14 years or 10 to 16 years, the testosterone is able to synthesize. Clear? Right. So now what is happening is, protein produced by the Sertolic cells. You remember androgen binding protein. That protein will always involve in maintaining the constant level of the testosterone. Only when the testosterone level is constant, the sperm cells can be produced. That means spermatogenesis will take place. Now here, the testosterone is increased more. That time, the Sertolic cells will produce an hormone called inhibin in order to stop the secretion of LH. So if LH is switched off, testosterone cannot be synthesized. Okay, so if it is more, testosterone level is more, so it is inhibiting, stopping. So this kind of a mechanism is called negative feedback mechanism. Negative. Positive means it is not there, so it is producing. That is called positive. Negative means it is there more, so it is preventing it. So it is called negative feedback mechanism. So inhibiting always involving negative feedback mechanisms. Understand? Right. So the role of the Sertolic cells will always produce a hormone called inhibin in order to involve or maintain the negative feedback mechanism. Then extra we have studied in the end of the spermatogenesis, it is producing androgen binding protein and all this. Okay, this is the cell which is involving in function which is involving in the cells called Sertolic or otherwise called as blood cell. This is number one. Second, it is also having a cell called Spermatogonia cell. That also you know. Spermatogonia. A male is born with Spermatogonia in the testis, and the Spermatogonia after puberty it will undergo spermatogenesis and divides mitotic division, then primary spermatocyte, then again it undergoes meiotic division to form two equal number of haploid secondary spermatocyte, then again meiotic division 2, then again each secondary spermatocyte will undergo producing 4 haploid spermatid. Then again it is undergoing spermiogenesis to form 4 haploid spermatozoa. So that is what. So now this is the cell which is involving in that spermatogenesis process. So inside the seminiferal tubule you have 2 cells. One is called the Sertolic cells, another one is called Spermatogonia cells. Is that clear? Right. Now as we talked about the seminiferal tubules, how many seminiferal tubules are there inside the coil, inside the lobes? 2 to 4. That means if these are all the seminiferal tubules, means in between you will have certain space. Okay, so these space are called interstitial cells. Interstitial cell or otherwise called as Leydig cells. So these cells are presented in between the Sertolic cells. That means it is in the soft connective tissue it is. Okay. Now these cells are highly involved in endocrine gland. Endocrine gland means the LH hormone will always act on the Leydig cells or the interstitial cells in order to produce testosterone. Understand? But FS hormone acts on the Sertolic cells to produce spermatogenesis. LH hormone acts on the interstitial cells to produce an hormone called testosterone. So this is what the cells that is involving in the testis. We studied structure and location of testis. We also studied about the seminiferal tubule. Then the cells which is involving in the inside and outside the seminiferal tubules. And next one is the duct, tube. See, all the seminiferal tubules are connected by a structure called retitestis. Okay, so sequence you have to organize it in one arm and dot. And as soon as you get out from the seminiferal tubules, the structure is called retitestis. After this is the number 2. One is seminiferal tubule, and the second one is it comes here the structure called vasa efferentia. Efferent means it is just going out. Okay, so that called vasa efferentia, and then you will find an highly coiled structure that is called epididymis. Very important structure, epididymis fully. Now, as you know, sperm cells are produced inside the seminiferal tubules. After the sperm cell produced, once it gets matured into spermatozoa, the sperm cell does not remain inside the seminiferal tubules. Okay, it will come out and it is stored temporarily in the structure called epididymis. So mature sperm cells are temporarily stored in the structure called epididymis. Sperm cells are produced in the seminiferal tubule. That is the difference between these two tubes. Understand? Now, as soon as it comes here in the epididymis, it is remaining there. Why? Because it has to get a good shape, nourishment, some maturity, all this. And after that, it is pushed into this tube called vasa differentia or vas deferens. So it is the fifth one, vas deferens. Okay, then it comes out. Here you will have the urinary bladder, and it is coming here called ejaculated duct. Comes out, ejaculation is coming out, and the last one is called the urethra. In where the urethra will be for conveying both. Urine also comes through this tract. At the same time, sperm also released into that tract. Okay, for male, urethra is a common passage for sperm cell as well as for the urine. Is that clear? So these are all the ducts involving it. What are the ducts? Seminiferal tubules, retitestis, vasa efferentia, then epididymis, vas deferens, ejaculated duct, and finally it leads into a structure called urethra. Okay, so these are the ducts. And the last one is the glands which is involving in it. Now, there are three different glands are there. That is the bulbourethral gland is also called as Cowper's gland. Okay, bulbourethral gland or also called as Cowper's gland. And the second one is called, actually first gland we talk about here is seminal vesicle and prostate gland, bulbourethral gland. Okay, when we talk about the seminal vesicle, it is there on page number 13. All these are 2-mark questions. Page number 13, right side you will find the seminal vesicle secrete alkaline fluid. Very important 1-mark question. The difference between seminal vesicle and prostate glands are seminal vesicle will secrete alkaline secretion, whereas prostate gland secretes slightly acidic solution. Acidic. Okay, it is there. Now, so all the diagram parts also you please study. Now, the seminal vesicle secretes an alkaline fluid called seminal plasma. 2-mark question this is seminal vesicle, and contain fructose sugar, ascorbic acid, prostaglandin, and it is having a coagulating enzyme called vesiculase. Okay, all this helps in the sperm motility. Then bulbourethral gland is always presented just below the prostate gland. So bulbourethral gland below the prostate gland. Okay, so that is the 1-mark question there. When you talk about the bulbourethral gland, it gives a kind of a lubrication. And the next one is prostate gland. Prostate gland will be encircling this is a urethra. It will be encircling. It rotates, circles. Okay, urethra it encircles, rotates. So that is the prostate gland. So prostate gland is slightly acidic as I told you because it contains an acid called citrate. Then several enzymes will be there. Very important, prostate specific antigen. Okay, next one is a book-back question. The composition of semen, as I told you, after the sperm is produced, the sperm is moving into all the tubes. Okay, now the sperm cannot move by its own. It needs a medium for movement. Okay, so without that medium, sperm cannot move. So here, a kind of a fluid is involving in the movement. That fluid is called semen. Okay, it is a milky mucoidal fluid which is present and that contains sperm and the seminal plasma. The seminal fluid acts as a transport medium, provide nutrition, contain chemicals that protect and activate the sperm and also facilitate their movements. Okay, so these are all very important points regarding the male reproductive system. When you talk about the male reproductive system, you should concentrate on the structure and location of testis, seminiferal tubules, what are the cells involving in it, ducts and the accessory glands. Okay, the ducts are also called accessory ducts because it is supporting this. Okay, so all these are the important structures. Okay, so next class we will be concentrating on the female reproductive system. With that, the second chapter will get over. Is that clear? Right. Take down your questions for a pre-test. Recap. Question number 1. Dash is called as thermoregulator. Dash is called as thermoregulator. Dash is called as thermoregulator. Number 2. Testis is covered by a membrane called dash. Testis is covered by a membrane called dash. Third question. The cell which is embedded into a soft connective tissue surrounding the seminiferal tubules. The cells which are surrounding the seminiferal tubules. The cells which are located outside the seminiferal tubules. The cells which are present outside the seminiferal tubules. Fourth question. Negative feedback mechanism is controlled by a cell called dash. Negative feedback mechanism is controlled by a cell called dash. Last question. The last question. The gland which is alkaline secretion. The gland which is alkaline secretion. The gland which is alkaline secretion. Check the answer. Number 1. Dash is called as thermoregulator, scrotum sac. Number 2. Now the cells which is present outside the seminiferal tubules or the interstitial cells or the Leydig cells. Question number 3. Question number 2 is tunica albuginea. Tunica albuginea. Okay. Question number 3. It is the cell which is located in between the testes. That means the seminiferal tubules are called the interstitial cells or the Leydig cells. Okay. Now the hormone or the cell which is involving in negative feedback control is sertolic cells. Negative feedback control is sertolic cells. And the gland which is producing alkaline secretion is seminal vesicle. Okay. So once again, the answer for the first question is scrotum sac. Second one is tunica albuginea. Third one is interstitial cells or Leydig cells. Fourth one is sertolic cells. The last one is seminal vesicles.